It doesn't take a whole lot of distance to change your perspective, MB. This person's thin place was a tree house right in their backyard that they had built as a way of getting away from it all and relaxing and experiencing some peace, maybe reading a book. And I love the idea of a thin place being your own backyard or somewhere very close to you. It doesn't have to be some spectacular place. I have these lifelong memories of sitting in this church and looking out these windows, MLC. This thin place is the interior of Saugatuck Congregational Church in Westport. And this person grew up in this church and is now raising her own children in this church and has wonderful memories of sitting in the pew and looking out the window and feeling a peaceful feeling and feeling very connected with this building. And again, I love that it's somewhere local that she goes to all the time. I come here and I'm just at peace, PD. This person's thin place was right to the side of the house she grew up in Westport. And she spent countless hours in the woods here. They moved away to California. When they came back, they were selling this property, and originally these huge rocks that she used to sit on and read and were going to be moved away, but she said no, she needed them to stay there. And when she sees them, it reminds her of growing up and finding a peaceful place right here in Westport. I saw this room, that's where I was, in my safe space, CS. This woman is a yoga instructor, and she built this room especially for teaching yoga. Her husband had an autoimmune disease, and she donated 80% of her liver to save him. Sadly, he passed 14 months after, but right before she underwent the operation, she pictured this room, and it made her feel calm and safe and not afraid. And this room continues to have special meaning for her, where she feels her husband's presence. I felt this spirituality around me, and I remember saying, just leave me here, ST. This person actually went to Isle Iona. She just went there sightseeing, and it was a time in her life when she was feeling very lost and worried and concerned about many things. And when she set foot on Isle Iona, she instantly felt this feeling of calm. She didn't want to leave. She just felt her life, everything was put into perspective. She bought this piece of pottery there, and she looks at it every day as a reminder of Isle Iona. When I'm under the tree, I get this feeling of being protected, JE. This person bought this house where she was going to exhibit art and have music events, and one of the huge selling points when she was looking at properties, she originally didn't think this house was going to fit her needs, but they came and saw it and saw this incredible beechwood tree, and it was just so magnificent, and they just felt we have to live here. Since then, they've had dance performances and art exhibits and other multi-cultural events there, and the beech tree has always made her feel a sense of safety when she's under it, and has been a participant in many of these activities. It gave me a sense of serenity that I didn't have otherwise, VS. This thin place is in the backyard of a friend who lives in Mamaroneck. She was going through a very difficult time. She was undergoing cancer treatments, and she was very worried and felt very unsafe. She would come back here and just sit and rest, and felt this feeling of belonging and peace and connectedness, and it helped her get through her treatments. It's a place where I feel I'm in God's embrace, JC. This person's thin place is a pond not far from their summer home. It's a place where she comes to feel renewal and peace, and it reminds her of when she was a little girl. She spent a lot of time in Michigan on a lake that her grandfather had a house on, and it brings her back to her childhood in a happy, peaceful time, and it gives her a lot of pleasure and peace. All of a sudden, this blinding joy came over me, SB. This person drives past this particular body of water and this marshland every day on her way to work, and she was worried about many things. She was having trouble sleeping, and she was driving to work and still feeling the weight of that worry, when all of a sudden she looked up and she saw this marsh, and she just had this overwhelming feeling of joy and peacefulness, and this feeling that everything was going to be all right. And every time she passes it to this day, she just kind of pauses, and it makes her feel better. It's where I go to make things right, PM. This is a park close to this person's home, and they come here often to walk their dog or to just sort things out, and they always feel a sense of contentment and peace and better able to face life's challenges. And again, I love that it's so close. It's not somewhere spectacular, it's just very close to their home. For almost 30 years, it has served as my temple, KR. This person lived locally for 30 years and has always found this particular beach to be a special place to come and to think and to meditate and to sort things out. Her husband was undergoing cancer treatment, and she was, of course, very worried and very upset and feeling very frightful about the future. And she would come here and sit. It would help her center herself and find peace. There's a kind of exhale and a sense of wonderment that I associate with God's presence, ABP. This person's thin place has always been walking through leaves in the fall, the crispness, the feeling of renewal, and even though fall is often associated with an ending, for her it's a beginning and a reminder of the beauty of the natural world and God's presence in it. It's a spectacular place to sit and be quiet, EF. This person's thin place is an apple orchard not far from her house, where she goes on hikes and often visits. After hiking through the forest, and it's not an easy hike either, you get to the top and there's this incredible feeling of openness all around you, and it makes her feel very calm and peaceful, and she often revisits it for that reason. I need to be my own knight in shining armor, JH. This person's thin place has always been the beach, whether it be in Delaware or Connecticut, wherever she goes, she's always found a tremendous amount of peace there. She lost her mother about 2 years ago, and when she's at the beach, she feels her mother's presence. She was at the beach recently and found this soldier, and she felt that it was a sign from her mother warning her that she needed to be strong because there were challenges ahead, which turned out to be true, and it gave her strength. Welcome to my Thin Places project. I started the project about 2 years ago after hearing a sermon by John Danner speaking about Isle Iona off Scotland, one of the world's thin places. A thin place is a place where the distance between heaven and earth is tissue thin. I was so captivated by that idea because I love photographing landscapes and being in nature. I also love hearing people's stories. So the idea of combining the two really resonated with me. So I began to talk to people about it, and people would say to me, I have a thin place, and then I would get together with them and document it. I'd record them and then also try to capture it on film. I shoot only in film. I shoot mostly with large format cameras and antique lenses. I find that it gives me the quality I'm looking for. So I would go and document it and then place the photographs with the stories and hopefully begin to illustrate how they felt or capture something about what they felt. It's taken me to many people's thin places, but most of them have been local, which I really like. I love the idea of photographing the familiar and not having to go to somewhere far away to find beauty. Beauty is everywhere and all around us. I love that, and it's been a very inspiring project. For this exhibit, I really wanted to, I didn't want to print on paper. I felt like the prints had to echo, they had to, give the feeling of thinness. So I worked with some people and we brainstormed and came up with the idea of printing on silk. So I scanned the negatives and then printed on silk for the small prints. And then the large prints were printed by Photographic Solutions in Norwalk. And then there was the problem of how to exhibit and show the silk and have it look like it's floating. So I consulted with Wendy at Picture This of Westport, and she came up with the idea of pinning the silk and floating it within a small, shallow shadow box. I hope you enjoy it. It's been a wonderful project for me. Thank you. Special thanks to Orlando Fonseca and Zoe Nunez for making this incredible film for me under short notice and doing such a beautiful job. Thank you. And also special thanks to all of you who shared your thin places with me. I'm very grateful. Thank you.